The forest of Nirval stretched far and wide, dark and silent, yet alive with tiny flashes of light. Strange plants glowed softly in blues, greens, and purples, giving the night a gentle shimmer. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and sweet nectar. Among the twisting trees and tall ferns, creatures with thin, glowing limbs moved quietly, hidden in the shadows. Lyra, the alien girl, watched from high above the forest floor. Her bioluminescent skin pulsed gently, blending with the soft lights of the forest. Her eyes, large and golden, reflected every flicker of the glowing plants. She had never seen anything like the human who moved below. He carried no lantern, no glowing device, not even a weapon that could warn her of danger. And yet he walked as if the dark itself were his home. She had been warned. Darkness on Nirval was dangerous. Creatures that hunted in the dark were fast, silent, and deadly. No alien traveled these forests at night without special lights or protective spells. But this human, Kale, she had learned his name from the strange, glowing tags he left behind, did not even flinch. He walked calmly, stepping over roots and small rocks with precise balance. His eyes were bright, but they were not reflecting the light of the forest. Somehow he could see perfectly in shadows. Curiosity mixed with caution inside Lyra. She had never been this close to a human before. The elders had told stories. Humans were strange, fragile, and reckless. They relied on bravery that often led them into danger. But Kale, he seemed different. She felt a tingle of both fear and fascination. Lyra moved silently from branch to branch, keeping her distance. She wanted to see more. The human knelt suddenly, crouching by a small stream that reflected the dim glow of the plants. He dipped his hands into the water, observing ripples as if studying something. Then he touched the moss on a nearby tree, listening to the soft crackle it made. He moved slowly, carefully, yet confidently. Lyra's pulse quickened. How could anyone walk through such darkness without fear? The predators here were not shy. She could feel them stirring, sensing her presence, waiting for prey. But Kale did not notice. From above, Lyra whispered softly to herself, her voice blending with the night. How can he be so calm? Doesn't he know what lurks here? Kale paused, lifting his head slightly. He turned his face toward the shadows, listening. Then he smiled faintly, as if he could feel her watching. Lyra froze. She had been certain he could not sense her. She was invisible, hidden in the leaves, yet somehow he knew. For a moment she considered retreating, but curiosity held her still. She had to understand him. She had to know how a human could walk through the dark without fear. The forest around them seemed alive. Leaves rustled in the wind, though no wind blew. Strange insects glowed as they flitted past, and the shadows of tall ferns swayed, creating shapes that might have scared anyone else. Lyra's species was cautious by nature. Fear was part of survival. But Kale? He stepped forward, unafraid of every shadow, every rustle. Lyra climbed down a little closer, resting on a sturdy branch near the human's path. She watched as he paused by a cluster of glowing mushrooms. He leaned down, observing them, then gently touched the soft caps. They bent under his fingers but did not break. He laughed quietly at the sensation, a sound clear and bright in the dark. The sound startled Lyra. She had never heard laughter in such darkness. Laughter usually meant comfort or safety, not here. Not in a place where every shadow could kill. Yet Kale laughed. And in that moment, Lyra felt a strange feeling she did not understand. Respect? Amazement? Perhaps both. Suddenly, a small shadow darted past the ground near Kale's feet. Lyra's body tensed. A small predator, its glowing eyes fixed on the human. Every instinct in her screamed for him to run, to hide, to protect himself. But Kale did not move. He bent down slowly, staring at the creature. He whispered something in his soft human voice. Lyra could not hear the words clearly, but the creature froze. Then, slowly, it turned and disappeared into the darkness. Lyra gasped softly, though she tried to hide the sound. How had he done that? She had never seen any alien control predators like that without weapons, without traps, without magic. Yet Kale had not even looked afraid. Her mind raced. Humans were supposed to be fragile, she reminded herself. They were supposed to fear the dark. Yet here he was, stepping freely through the forest, fearless, calm, and observant. Every step he took seemed measured and precise, yet filled with a confidence that she could not understand. Lyra knew she had to approach him. She wanted answers. She wanted to understand how he could be this way. Carefully, she lowered herself from the branch, landing softly on a moss-covered log a few feet away. Her skin glowed softly, and she hoped he would not see her yet. But Kale did. He turned his head slightly, his eyes meeting hers. Lyra froze. She had been sure that the dark would hide her, but the human's gaze was sharp, aware, and strangely kind. He did not step back. He did not shout. He only smiled faintly, as if greeting an old friend. For the first time, Lyra felt a mixture of fear and excitement. She was supposed to be the observer, the cautious one. But now, she was part of the unknown, an unknown human who did not fear what her species had always feared. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Every glowing plant, every shadow, every tiny creature waited silently. Lyra's heart beat faster. She took a small step closer. Kyle did not move. He simply watched, calm and patient. Then a deeper shadow appeared behind him, large and low, moving silently across the forest floor. Lyra's instincts screamed danger. She wanted to shout, to warn him, to drag him back to safety. But Kale's hand rose slowly, pointing toward the shadow. He whispered something again. The shadow hesitated, then stopped, as if listening. Lyra's mouth fell open. She had never seen a human do this. Never. The predator's glowing eyes blinked once, twice. Then it turned and disappeared. Kyle lowered his hand and smiled faintly. "It's okay," he said softly. "Nothing to fear here." Lyra's skin pulsed brighter with surprise. Nothing to fear? She had never heard these words in the forest. Nothing in the dark was ever safe. And yet, here was a human, standing calmly, speaking softly, and commanding respect from the dangerous creatures. Something inside Lyra shifted. She realized that this human was unlike any alien she had met. He did not rely on magic, on technology, on fear. He relied on something else, something deep inside him. Courage, perhaps, or understanding, or trust. Trust in himself. She stepped closer, still hidden partially by the shadows. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "Who are you?" Kale tilted his head, studying her glowing form. He smiled. "I'm Kale. And who are you?" I am Lyra," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. You should not be here. It is dangerous. You should be afraid." Kale shook his head gently. "I am not afraid. The dark is just part of the world. You just have to learn how to move in it." Lyra's golden eyes widened. "Move in it?" she repeated. "Without fear?" "Yes," Kale said simply, "without fear." The forest seemed quieter now, as if it listened to their words. Lyra could feel the shadows watching, waiting, yet not daring to approach. The human's presence seemed to change the darkness itself. Lyra realized something important. She had always believed that darkness was dangerous, that only fear could keep one alive. But this human, he moved through it with confidence. He respected it, yes, but he did not let it control him. Her pulse quickened with both fear and curiosity. She had to learn more. She had to understand how this human could be so fearless, so calm, so alive in the dark. And so, from the shadows, Lyra stepped forward closer to the human. Her bioluminescent skin glowed softly, illuminating a small patch of the forest floor. Kyle looked down at her and smiled. "Hello, Lyra. Don't be afraid. You're safe." Lyra's heart skipped a beat. Safe? Here? In this forest? Perhaps he was right. Perhaps humans were not like aliens after all. And in that moment, high above the glowing ferns and silent predators, Lyra realized something she would not understand fully until later. Humans were not afraid of the dark, not because they did not feel it, but because they faced it, embraced it, and walked through it with courage that was stronger than fear itself. And she had just begun to learn what that truly meant. The forest of Nirval seemed even darker from the ground. Shadows stretched like fingers between the glowing plants, and strange sounds whispered in the wind. Yet Kale moved calmly beside Lyra. The alien girl could not stop watching him. Every step he took seemed natural, confident, yet careful. It was as if he could read the forest itself. Lyra floated a few inches above the mossy ground, her bioluminescent glow softly lighting the path ahead. Kale glanced at her, noticing the light but not frightened. "Don't worry," he said. "I can see well enough." Lyra blinked. His voice was calm, warm, and full of quiet confidence. She had expected fear or caution, maybe even anger, but Kyle, he seemed to trust the darkness as much as he trusted himself. You are not afraid?" she asked, almost in disbelief. "No," Kale replied simply. "The dark is just another part of the forest. You learn to feel it, to listen to it. It guides you if you know how to pay attention." Lyra tilted her head. She had never thought of the dark that way. For her species, darkness meant danger. Fear was necessary. Fear kept you alive. But Kale, he seemed to see it as something else. A challenge, perhaps, or a friend. As they moved through the trees, Kale stopped occasionally, crouching low to touch the ground or listen. He pointed out tiny footprints in the moss. "These belong to a small creature," he explained softly. "It moves mostly at night. Not dangerous, but curious." Lyra followed his gaze and saw the tiny prints. She had expected him to be careless, to step over them or crush them by accident, but he moved gently, aware of every detail. She realized he had a patience that few aliens possessed. Suddenly, a rustling came from above. Lyra's body tensed. A shadow moved between the tree branches, a predator of the dark. She instinctively pushed Kale behind a thick tree trunk. "Careful," she whispered, her glow flickering nervously. Kale crouched low, his eyes scanning the movement. Then he smiled faintly. "It's okay," he said. "It's watching us. It's curious, not hungry. Watch." The shadowed creature perched on a high branch, its eyes glowing faintly. It hissed softly, but did not move closer. Kyle stayed still, relaxed, and spoke softly in a low tone. The creature's head tilted, as if listening. Then it leapt silently to another branch and disappeared into the dark. Lyra's pulse raced. How could he do that? No alien had ever faced the predators like that. Fear was instinct, fear was survival. But Kale, he used something else, calm, presence, and understanding. He is different," Lyra whispered to herself. Kale turned to her. "Different how?" You are not afraid," she said, almost in wonder. No one moves in the dark like that." Kyle shrugged. "I am not fearless. I just don't let the fear control me. You can't stop the forest from being dark or dangerous, but you can control yourself." Lyra's mind swirled with thoughts. Could it be that humans saw the world differently? That courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act anyway? She did not fully understand, but she wanted to learn. They walked together for a while, moving deeper into the forest. Strange, glowing vines hung from the trees, creating a soft curtain between areas. Tiny creatures darted past, some glowing, some almost invisible. Lyra noticed that Kale's eyes missed nothing. He saw patterns in the shadows, listened to movements that she barely noticed, and moved with care that seemed both natural and extraordinary. Suddenly, Kale stopped. He crouched beside a patch of soft moss and motioned for Lyra to look. "See these lines?" he said. "Someone or something has been moving through here. Not recent, but still fresh." Lyra leaned closer. She could see the small markings, faint scratches on the moss and leaves. Her instincts told her to avoid this path. But Kale's calmness made her hesitate. He studied the marks carefully. "They are not dangerous," Kale explained. "Just travelers. But they tell us where to go next. Follow me." They moved again, deeper into the forest. The trees grew taller, the shadows darker, and the glowing plants rarer. Lyra's skin glowed brighter, a natural response to fear and caution. But Kale, he walked as if he were in daylight, unaffected by the shadows. As they walked, Lyra decided to test him. She raised her hand slightly, creating a faint flicker of her light to see his reaction. Kale noticed, of course, but did not flinch. Instead, he smiled faintly. "You are trying to test me," he said. I need to know," Lyra admitted. No alien has ever moved in the dark without fear. I cannot understand you." Kyle nodded slowly. "You will if you spend time with me. Fear is natural, but courage is learning how to move forward anyway. The dark does not control me. I control my own mind." Lyra felt a strange warmth inside. For the first time, she wondered if humans were not as fragile as her species believed. They were not creatures of instinct only. They were creatures of choice. They chose courage over fear. And that made them powerful in ways aliens could not always understand. A sudden rustle in the bushes interrupted her thoughts. Lyra jumped slightly, but Kyle stayed calm. "Shh," he whispered. "Listen." They froze. A pack of small predators was moving nearby. Lyra's instincts screamed to hide, to flee. But Kyle only listened and waited. The creatures passed by, ignoring them entirely. Lyra's skin pulsed brightly with surprise. How do you do that?" she whispered. Kyle smiled. "You listen, you watch, you move carefully, you respect the forest, and it respects you. Fear makes you small. Awareness makes you strong." Lyra thought about his words. She had always relied on her instincts, her caution, and her fears to survive. But Kale's way was different. It was not about avoiding danger. It was about understanding it and moving with it. They continued walking until they reached a clearing. A faint moon glowed overhead, though the light barely touched the ground. The clearing was surrounded by tall ferns and twisted trees. In the center, a strange stone structure lay half-covered in moss and vines. Kyle approached it cautiously, studying the symbols carved into the stone. "This place is old," he said. "Abandoned, but still strong. Someone used to live here, someone who understood the forest." Lyra floated closer, curious. She had never explored an ancient human place. Her species did not leave traces like this. Everything she knew was designed to vanish or blend. But Kale? He looked at the stones with respect, as if learning from them. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the clearing. Lyra tensed. The predators were still close, but Kale remained calm. He stepped forward, lightly touching the stone wall, then looked around. "We are safe here for now," he said. Lyra's pulse slowed slightly. She realized something important. humans were not fearless by accident. They were careful, observant, and brave in ways that made them strong in darkness. Fear did not vanish. It was present, like a quiet companion. But humans chose courage over letting fear control them. For the first time, Lyra felt admiration mixed with a strange sense of hope. Maybe this human could teach her something. Maybe she could learn to face the dark, not with trembling, but with confidence. Kale turned to her, smiling faintly. "Come closer," he said. "There is more to learn if you want." Lyra nodded. She floated down from the shadows, stepping beside him. The clearing felt safer with him there. She had no idea what lay ahead, but she trusted him, at least for now. And so, under the quiet glow of the forest and the soft light of her own skin, Lyra took her first real steps toward understanding humans and discovering courage she had never known before. The dark forest still waited, full of danger and mystery, but Lyra realized she was no longer alone. And with Kyle by her side, she felt a flicker of something new. Possibility, strength, and the first taste of fear transformed into something much greater: courage. The night in the forest of Nirval grew thicker, darker, and heavier. Shadows moved like silent rivers across the ground, twisting and shifting as the strange wind whispered through the tall ferns. Lyra floated close to Kale, her glow brighter than usual, as though her nervous energy lit the forest around them. But Kale walked calmly, his eyes scanning every movement, listening to every sound. "You are different," Lyra whispered. "I thought the dark would be full of danger, but you move as if nothing can touch you." Kyle glanced at her, his expression calm. "It is not that nothing can touch me. Danger exists everywhere. But fear does not help. It makes you slow, hesitant. Awareness, careful thought, and courage, these keep you alive." Lyra's golden eyes widened. She had always believed that fear was the strongest guide. Aliens on Nirval were cautious, constantly alert. Fear kept them safe. Yet here was a human, moving through shadows, facing the forest's most dangerous nights without trembling. They walked further into the trees. The air was thick with mist that glowed faintly from the phosphorescent plants. Strange sounds echoed, chirps, clicks, and rustles from creatures hidden in the undergrowth. Every rustle made Lyra tense, her glow flickering nervously. Kale stopped suddenly. He crouched low, placing a hand on the mossy ground. "Do you hear that?" he asked softly. Lyra listened. At first, all she could hear was the whisper of leaves in the wind. Then, beneath it, a deeper sound, a low, rhythmic scraping, like claws moving over rock. It was slow but steady, deliberate. "The predators," Lyra whispered, barely moving her lips. Her body pulsed brighter with fear. They are coming closer," Kyle nodded. "Yes, but we are ready." "Ready?" she asked, alarmed. "We are not ready. There are too many of them. You cannot face them all." Kale's smile was calm, almost gentle. "We do not face them with fear. We face them with understanding." Lyra did not understand. How could understanding stop a predator? How could calmness protect against sharp claws and teeth? But she saw the truth in Kale's eyes. He was not reckless. He was aware. He was alive in a way she had never seen. A sudden movement caught Lyra's attention. Shadows twisted near the ground, long and silent. Eyes glowed faintly in the dark, predators of the forest. They were sleek, fast, and enormous compared to the human or Lyra. Their bodies blended with the shadows, making them almost invisible. Lyra froze. Her instincts screamed to fly, to hide, to use her light to warn Kale. But Kale crouched low, touching the forest floor lightly with his hand. He whispered softly, his voice almost a song in the dark. The predators stopped. Their glowing eyes turned toward him. They hissed softly, unsure. Then, slowly, they backed away, retreating into the shadows. Lyra's skin glowed brighter with shock. How did you do that?" she whispered. Kale shrugged. "I didn't fight them. I didn't threaten them. I just stayed calm and showed them I was aware. Fear excites them. Calmness confuses them." Lyra could not believe it. Her species had trained for years to survive encounters like this. Fear, speed, and magic were the tools of survival. But Kale, he had none of that. Yet he survived. Not by strength, not by weapons, not by instinct alone, but by presence. They continued walking, deeper into the forest. Every step Lyra took was cautious, yet she found herself learning from Kale. She noticed how he listened to the sounds, how he felt the vibrations in the ground, how he noticed the smallest movements of leaves or glowing insects. "Teach me," Lyra whispered. "Teach me how to move like you." Kale smiled. "You already have some of it. Awareness, careful observation, listening. You just need to trust yourself more." A rustling in the trees startled her. Lyra's glow pulsed brightly. Shadows moved rapidly toward them. This time, Kale did not step forward. Instead, he crouched and observed. The shadows grew closer, forming the outline of larger predators, sleek and deadly. Lyra's instincts screamed. She wanted to run, to hide, to leave the forest entirely. But Kyle remained calm. He whispered softly, and the predators hesitated. Their glowing eyes blinked, uncertain. Slowly, they began to circle around them, not attacking, just observing. Lyra's heart raced. They will attack," she hissed. Kyle shook his head. "Not if we do not provoke them. Watch me." He crouched low and moved slowly, deliberately, one careful step at a time. He shifted slightly, watching the predator's reactions. Lyra mimicked his movements, keeping her glow low. Step by step, Kale guided her, showing her how to move through the dark without drawing attention. The predators watched closely, but did not strike. Kyle spoke softly, pointing out the small details. A branch that could snap and alert them. A patch of moss that was firmer and safe to step on. A low leaf that could brush against her skin and give her away. Lyra followed his instructions. For the first time, she felt the forest not as a dangerous trap, but as a space to navigate, to read, and to move within. She began to notice patterns, the rhythm of the predator's steps, the sounds of the insects, the faint glowing lines of the plants that showed safe paths. The predators circled them twice, then slowly retreated into the shadows. Lyra exhaled, her skin dimming slightly. She looked at Kale, amazed. I did not know it was possible," she whispered. Kale smiled. "It is possible. Fear does not vanish. It is still there, but we choose how to use it. Awareness turns fear into strength." Lyra realized something new. Humans did not deny fear. They felt it, but they did not let it control them. Fear was a guide, not a prison. She felt a strange mix of admiration and envy. Her species had never learned this. They relied too much on instinct, too much on protection and caution. Kyle showed her a different way. They continued walking until they reached a small clearing. In the center was a shallow pond, its surface glowing faintly from bioluminescent algae. Kyle knelt beside it, watching the reflections of the plants. "This place is old," he said softly. "The forest has grown around it, but it was used by others before us. Maybe humans, maybe aliens, like you." Lyra floated closer. She had never explored an ancient place like this. She studied the faint markings on the stones around the pond. Strange symbols, almost alive with glowing energy, told stories of those who had lived here. Kyle touched one of the markings lightly. "We can learn from this," he said. "The forest teaches, the old places teach. We just have to listen." Lyra realized the truth in his words. Kale's courage was not just bravery in the face of danger. It was understanding, patience, and respect for the unknown. The predators, the dark, the forest, they were not enemies, they were teachers. A sudden movement made Lyra jump. A larger predator emerged at the edge of the clearing, its eyes glowing bright red. Its body was long and sleek, moving silently through the ferns. Lyra froze. Kyle stood slowly, his movements deliberate. He did not pull a weapon. He did not run. He faced the creature calmly, his eyes steady. "We do not need to fight," he whispered. The predator stopped, tilting its head. It hissed softly, testing, unsure. Kale shifted slightly, maintaining awareness without aggression. Slowly, the creature lowered its stance, then turned and disappeared into the darkness. Lyra's skin glowed brightly. She had never seen anything like this. Her species would have fled, attacked, or called for magic. Kale? He simply understood. For the first time, Lyra felt a spark of real courage. She realized that the forest was dangerous, yes, but fear was not the only way to survive. Awareness, patience, understanding, and calm courage could be stronger than instinct, stronger than magic, stronger than fear itself. Kyle looked at her, smiling faintly. "You are learning," he said. Lyra nodded. I want to learn more. I want to understand humans. I want to move like you do." Kale extended his hand. "Then follow me. There is more to see. The forest is not done teaching yet." Lyra took his hand, feeling a strange warmth and confidence. Together they moved deeper into the night, ready to face whatever the dark forest would send next. And for the first time, Lyra understood a small part of the truth she would realize fully later. Humans were not fearless because they never felt danger. They were fearless because they knew how to face it, and in doing so, they could turn fear into something far more powerful: strength, courage, and hope. The forest grew darker and more mysterious as Lyra and Kale moved deeper into Nirval. The glowing plants were now sparse, leaving long patches of darkness between the trees. Strange sounds echoed through the night: the chirping of unseen insects, the whispering of leaves, and the occasional rustle of distant predators. Lyra's skin glowed softly, illuminating the path just enough for her to see the roots and uneven ground beneath them. Kyle moved steadily beside her, listening, observing, and guiding. Each step he took was careful but confident, showing Lyra that fear did not rule him. She followed closely, trying to match his calm movements, learning the subtle ways to move without alerting predators or disturbing the forest. "You are improving," Kale said quietly, noticing her cautious movements. "Your senses are good. You just need to trust them. And yourself." I am trying," Lyra admitted. "It is strange. I always relied on fear to keep me safe, but it does not feel right anymore." "That is because humans do not survive by fear alone," Kale said. "We survive by learning, by thinking, and by facing the unknown." Lyra's golden eyes widened. She had thought humans were fragile and reckless, but now she realized they were something more. They were clever, adaptable, and brave in ways her species had rarely understood. As they walked, a sudden movement caught Lyra's attention. Shadows shifted near a cluster of ferns, and she instinctively pulled back, her glow brightening in alarm. Kyle held up his hand. "Wait," he whispered. Lyra froze. Through the shadows, she could see a small predator moving closer. Its glowing eyes reflected the faint light from her skin. She wanted to fly away, to warn Kale, to do anything that would protect them both. Kale stepped forward slowly, speaking in a low, calm tone. The predator paused, its body stiff, and its eyes studied him. Then it slowly backed away and disappeared into the darkness. Lyra's pulse raced. How do you do that every time?" she asked in disbelief. Kyle smiled faintly. "You do not fight everything. You do not try to control everything. You observe. You understand. You respect it. The forest respects those who respect it." Lyra considered his words carefully. For the first time, she thought of the forest not just as a place of danger, but as a living teacher. Every creature, every shadow, every whisper of wind had meaning if she paid attention. They moved further and reached a clearing surrounded by tall trees. In the center lay the remains of an old alien settlement. Crumbling structures were covered in moss, and strange, glowing symbols decorated the stone walls. Lyra floated closer, her curiosity piqued. "This place," she whispered. "It has been abandoned for centuries." Kyle nodded. "Yes, but it can still teach us. Look at the patterns on the walls. Someone built this, someone who understood this forest. We can learn from them." Lyra studied the symbols carefully. They told stories of survival, of clever strategies, of balance with the forest. She realized that humans and aliens alike had tried to live here, but few had understood the forest as Kale did. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the clearing. Lyra tensed, her glow brightening in alarm. She saw a large predator emerge from the shadows, a creature taller than any she had ever seen, sleek, with glowing eyes and sharp claws. Kale did not move backward. Instead, he crouched slightly, his eyes locked on the predator. "Stay calm," he whispered. "It is testing us, not attacking yet." Lyra's instincts screamed to run, to hide, to use her light to scare it away. But Kale moved slowly, deliberately, taking a step forward while keeping his hands relaxed. He spoke softly, his voice almost like a song in the night. The predator paused, its glowing eyes blinking. It hissed softly, but did not move closer. Kale shifted slightly, observing its reactions. Slowly, the creature lowered its stance, then circled around them, still watching, before finally retreating into the shadows. Lyra's pulse slowed. She had never seen an alien or a human control a predator without weapons or magic. Kale's strength was not physical. It was calmness, awareness, and understanding. "You are incredible," Lyra whispered. "I never thought humans could do this." Kale shook his head. "It is not about being incredible. It is about paying attention, respecting the unknown, and choosing courage over fear." Lyra absorbed his words. She felt a shift inside her, a growing admiration and respect for humans. They were not reckless or weak. They were strong in ways that required thought, patience, and presence. They explored the settlement together. Lyra followed Kyle through the moss-covered stones, observing the traps, pathways, and hidden chambers left behind by the previous inhabitants. Kyle explained how the designs allowed them to move safely through the forest, avoiding predators and finding food. "This is amazing," Lyra said. "The forest and the settlement, they are connected. Everything teaches if you know how to listen." Kale nodded. "Exactly. And we can use this knowledge. We are learning from the past to survive the present." As they continued, Lyra realized how much she had learned from Kale in just one night. She no longer relied only on instinct or fear. She moved with awareness, using her senses carefully, observing the patterns of the forest and the creatures that lived there. She had begun to understand what it meant to face danger without panic, to turn fear into strategy, and to trust herself. Hours passed, and the night grew deeper. Lyra and Kyle reached a small clearing where a faint stream flowed. The water reflected the dim glow of the remaining plants, creating soft light on the surrounding trees. Kale knelt beside the stream and touched the water gently. "Rest here," he said. "We need energy for what comes next." Lyra floated beside him, observing her reflection in the water. She noticed her glow was softer now, calmer, more controlled. She realized she had learned something important. Courage was not about never feeling fear. It was about controlling it, moving forward, and using knowledge and awareness to face challenges. Kale looked at her and smiled. You are ready for the next step. The forest will test us again, but together we can handle it." Lyra nodded. She trusted him completely. For the first time, she did not feel alone in the dark forest. She had a guide, a teacher, and a companion, and more than that, she had learned that humans could face the unknown with courage and intelligence that even her species had never mastered. A sudden rustle in the trees reminded them that the forest was not done testing them. Predators still lurked, shadows still moved, and danger was never far. But Lyra felt something she had never felt before: confidence. She moved beside Kale, ready to face whatever the night would bring, knowing that fear could no longer control her. They spent the rest of the night exploring the settlement and the surrounding forest. Kale showed her hidden paths, safe resting spots, and ways to move quietly. Lyra absorbed every lesson, practicing with care and growing more confident with each step. As dawn approached, the first light of the alien sun began to touch the forest, painting the shadows with soft gold. Lyra floated beside Kale, her glow dimming with the growing light. She looked at him and smiled. "I understand now," she said softly. "Humans are not afraid of the dark, because they face it with courage, awareness, and understanding. Fear does not control them." Kyle smiled back. "Exactly. And you are learning too, Lyra. Together we can face anything this forest throws at us." Lyra felt a bond forming, stronger than the glowing vines and twisting trees. She trusted Kale not just for guidance, but as a companion, a teacher, and a friend. For the first time in her life, she felt that courage was something she could carry within herself, not something the forest forced her to feel. And as the sun rose over Nirval, casting light over the dark forest, Lyra realized that the bond she shared with Kyle was more important than any skill or knowledge. Together they could face the shadows, the predators, and the unknown. Together they could survive, and even thrive, in the darkness. For the first time, Lyra felt hope, and hope was brighter than any light she could create. The forest of Nirval stretched endlessly, dark and mysterious, but the rising light of the alien sun softened its edges. Shadows still clung to the trees, but the glow of the morning made the dangers less threatening. Lyra floated beside Kyle, her bioluminescent skin dimming with the daylight. She had spent the night learning, moving, and observing. She felt stronger, more confident, and strangely connected to the human beside her. Yet the forest had one final lesson for them. As they walked toward a clearing that Kale had noticed the night before, a low rumble echoed through the trees. Lyra stiffened. The predators of the dark were gathering again, larger this time, their eyes reflecting the faint light like embers in the shadows. This group was bigger, faster, and more dangerous than any they had faced before. Kyle slowed, crouching slightly. "Stay calm," he whispered. "We face them together." Lyra's pulse raced. Her instincts screamed to fly away, to hide, to use her light to warn him. But she remembered everything Kale had taught her: awareness, patience, understanding, and courage. Fear did not control her anymore. She drew a deep breath and followed his lead. The predators approached, circling around them silently. Kale did not move aggressively. Instead, he observed their movements carefully, listening to their soft steps, their hissing whispers, and the subtle vibrations in the ground. Lyra mirrored him, lowering her glow, watching and listening. One massive predator stepped closer, its claws leaving faint scratches on the ground. It hissed, testing them, but Kyle did not flinch. He stepped slightly forward, just enough to show presence without aggression. Slowly, the predator stopped, uncertain. Lyra felt a thrill of amazement. She had never seen anything like this. Kyle whispered softly, a voice barely above a murmur, and the predator blinked, then retreated slightly. Step by step, he guided Lyra, showing her how to move with confidence, even when faced with overwhelming danger. The other predators watched, unsure, and gradually they backed away, vanishing into the shadows. Lyra exhaled, her glow dimming as relief washed over her. She turned to Kale, eyes wide. I cannot believe it. You faced them all without fighting." Kale smiled faintly. "Strength is not always about fighting. Sometimes it is about understanding, patience, and courage. Fear is natural, but courage is choice." Lyra absorbed his words. She realized that humans were not fearless because they lacked danger or pain. They were fearless because they chose to face it, to learn from it, and to act with awareness. It was not reckless bravery. It was skill, intelligence, and strength of mind. They continued walking toward the clearing Kale had noticed before, where a glowing canyon awaited them. The path was narrow, with twisting roots and uneven rocks. But Lyra moved confidently now, her steps careful and deliberate, following Kyle closely. She no longer relied only on instinct or fear. She used her senses, her awareness, and her courage. Finally, they reached the edge of the canyon. The view took Lyra's breath away. The canyon walls glowed with soft bioluminescence, reflecting in a river that ran through the bottom. Strange plants clung to the cliffs, creating a natural tapestry of light and shadow. The predators had not followed them here, and the forest seemed quieter, almost reverent. Kyle looked at the canyon, then at Lyra. "We made it," he said softly. "Safe for now. The forest has taught us much tonight." Lyra floated closer to him, feeling a mixture of awe and realization. She had followed this human through darkness, predators, and ancient ruins. She had learned to move, observe, and survive without panic, and she understood something important, too late, almost. She had misjudged him. She had assumed humans were fragile, reckless, and weak, but Kyle was none of those things. He was brave, not because he lacked fear, but because he knew how to face it, understand it, and turn it into strength. I misjudged you," Lyra said softly. "I thought humans were afraid of the dark. I thought you were like other creatures, reckless and fragile. But I see now, you are different, stronger than I imagined." Kyle smiled, a gentle warmth in his eyes. "It is not just me. Humans learn, adapt, and face challenges with courage. Fear is always there, but we choose how to respond." Lyra floated beside him, her glow soft and steady. She realized that the forest, the predators, and even the darkness had taught her a lesson she would never forget. Humans were fearless not because they lacked danger, but because they faced it with intelligence, awareness, and courage. A gentle wind whispered through the canyon, carrying the scents of the glowing plants and the river below. Lyra turned to Kale. "I want to learn more. I want to understand humans fully. There is so much I do not know." Kale nodded. "And I will teach you. There is much to learn, not just about humans, but about facing the unknown with courage. Together we can explore more than just this forest. We can explore worlds." For the first time, Lyra felt the full meaning of trust and companionship. Kyle was not just a teacher, he was a guide, a friend, and a companion through the unknown. And together, they could face any darkness, any danger, and any challenge. The sun rose higher, bathing the canyon in a soft golden glow. Lyra felt her glow dim with the daylight, but her heart burned brighter than ever. She realized the truth fully now. Humans were fearless in the dark not because they did not feel it, but because they chose courage over fear, understanding over panic, and action over hesitation. And she wanted to be like them. Suddenly, a ripple in the river below caught her attention. Strange, glowing creatures moved beneath the surface, and small waves lapped against the canyon walls. Lyra watched, fascinated, and Kale pointed out the patterns. The forest, the water, the light, everything has a rhythm, everything teaches. You just need to notice it. Lyra nodded. She had noticed it. She had learned to see, listen, and move with awareness. And she knew that Kyle had taught her more than just survival. He had taught her courage, understanding, and the meaning of facing the unknown with calm confidence. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt truly brave. Not reckless, not impulsive, but strong and aware. She could move through the dark forest, face predators, and explore the unknown without fear controlling her. She felt alive, free, and ready. Kyle looked at her and smiled. "Are you ready?" he asked. Lyra nodded firmly. "Yes, I am ready." Together they stepped closer to the edge of the canyon, ready to explore whatever lay beyond. The forest was still full of mysteries, but Lyra no longer feared it. She had learned from the human beside her that courage was not the absence of fear. It was the choice to face it. And she understood fully now, too late for her first assumptions. The human was not afraid of the dark, because humans were stronger than she had ever imagined. They took their first steps down the canyon path, moving carefully but confidently. Lyra's glow blended with the soft light of the forest and the golden rays of the rising sun. She felt a sense of hope, excitement, and possibility. She looked at Kyle, her companion and teacher, and realized that together they could face any challenge. They could survive, explore, and thrive, no matter the darkness around them. The predators of the forest had tested them. The shadows had tried to scare them. But Lyra and Kale had moved together, calm and aware, turning fear into strength. Lyra floated beside him, confident and calm. She had learned the greatest lesson of all, that courage, awareness, and trust could turn darkness into a place of learning, growth, and hope. And as the first light of the alien sun brightened the canyon, Lyra knew one truth she would never forget. Humans were not afraid of the dark. They were fearless because they faced it fully, with courage stronger than any shadow, and understanding sharper than any fear. For the first time, Lyra felt ready for anything. The unknown no longer frightened her. With Kale by her side, she could explore the universe, learn its mysteries, and face any darkness that came their way. The forest of Nirval still whispered its secrets, and Lyra was ready to listen. And for the first time, she knew that humans, with their courage, intelligence, and calmness, were capable of anything, even turning fear into power. The adventure was only beginning.